Welcome back. So I realized that I forgot to give you the answer to quiz question 2. And this is a question about the standard North American family. It's a truth-false question. And the question is that the standard North American family is a healthy and positive force in our society according to the lecture, or the image of the standard North American family. And according to the lecture from last week, I would have to say that the answer to that question is false. Because although the standard North American family, that everybody looks happy, it's an idealized family image. And it's important because it's not just sort of this funny 1950s image that's not really based in reality. It's an important cultural symbol that we all feel the need to strive for, but one that doesn't take into account important factors that affect family life, like economic forces that might make this ideal an impossibility. Because this ideal is the norm, we and others tend to measure families compared to this image. And so it is not what we would consider positive, because it's a way that the media idealizes family. It's a way that the government standardizes and rewards this image. So we expect our own families to be like this, and we feel inadequate when they aren't. So I would have to say that the answer to quiz question 2 is false. Okay, and now we will move on to theoretical perspectives of family. Although now I just lost my notes. Let me find them again. In this video, we will be focusing on theoretical perspectives used in the sociology of the family by sociologists. Each theoretical perspective includes a basic worldview with which to view families. They include a basic model of families in society, an approach to the field's important problems and questions. In sociology, we focus on 3 important theoretical perspectives, and these are the perspectives that we will be focusing on in our view of families and marriage. So they are the structural functionalist approach, conflict theory, and social constructionism. So let me begin by, we'll talk about the structural functionalist approach. This is an approach that was developed in the 1950s. That's your answer to quiz question 4. It's the first one, the 1950s. So the structural functionalist approach was developed in the 1950s. According to the structural functionalist approach, all aspects of society serve an important function, organized around the needs of society as a whole. The sociologist Talcott Parsons in 1955 saw the family form as a vital element in the larger social system because it could manage the economic system as a unit, that it could act as a haven from the pressures of the outside world, that it could socialize new members of society, in other words, children, to the norms, beliefs, and values of the culture, thus contributing to the smooth functioning of society. Under structural functionalism, the family is seen as a perfectly harmonious system. In its traditional form, the father connected to the outside world and connected his family to the broader economic system. The mother provided a haven for the father, helping to protect him from the outside world. This division of labor was seen by the structural functionalists as the basis for a moral order, social unity, harmony, and the smooth functioning of society. Now remember, I said that this was developed in the 1950s. It's not surprising, right? Because, well, let's go look at our family again. because it's talking about this, and this picture was drawn or painted in the 1950s. So it's not surprising that it looked like that. However, we have criticisms of structural functionalism, obviously. It did not take into account the diversity of family forms or the necessity for dual earner households. Obviously, we have a multitude of different types of families that look different than the structural functionalist approach lays out. We have very diverse families. We have the need for more than one earner in the family. We don't generally think of the a wife in a family as being there, and that her purpose is to provide a safe haven for her husband. Often we have same-sex households, and so what happens then, and obviously we have evolved regarding gender, and so we would ask, why is it not the man who's staying in the home and the woman out in the workplace, or two men out in the workplace, or two women out in the workplace? So the main criticism of structural functionalism is that it didn't take into account dual earner households or the diversity of family forms. This misrepresentation of family life only took into account the experience of one group, the dominant group, while ignoring the reality of everyone else. The conflict approach is based on the work of Karl Marx, and the main premise is the opposite of structural functionalism. In structural functionalism, the premise is that the family promotes the smooth functioning of society and harmony. Conflict is the opposite of that. It states opposition and conflict define a given society and are necessary for social evolution. Structural functionalists believe that the status quo is good and that things should stay the same for the good of the social order, and that change is dangerous. But with conflict theory, change is good and necessary for driving history forward. Change is good because there is inequality in our current state that must be addressed through change. Conflict perspective is based on the work of Karl Marx, writing in the 1800s, so a long time before structural functionalism came around. Marx focused on economic inequality. More recent sociologists have focused specifically on inequality in regards to families. Randall Collins, writing in 1975, for instance, focused on the domination of men in family households. Others have connected the family form to capitalism, arguing that the ideal nuclear family with only one adult working outside of the home benefits employers. Women working inside of the home without pay and taking care of the men means the employer pays a family wage rather than two people. Also, according to conflict perspective, according to structural functionalism, socialization is an important function of the family. Under structural functionalism, the family helps to maintain a common social order by socializing new members of society, the children, to the values and norms of society. Under conflict perspective, they see this process as functioning to maintain a social order that only benefits some at the expense of others. The family promotes values that ensure the dominance of the upper class, like respect for authority, etc. Our third theoretical perspective is social constructionism. What we know to be true or real is the product of the cultural and historical period in which we exist under social constructionism. What we know to be true may be different than what people of other cultures or people of different time periods know to be true. The process by which facts, knowledge, and truth is discovered, made known, and believed is called the social construction of reality. This takes place through interaction with others. This approach assumes that there is not as much objective reality as we think there is. So, one example that I will give you is this symbol. We recognize this symbol with somebody holding their hands together and then their fingers under their lips, eyes closed. We recognize this as a symbol for prayer. However, a symbol is just a thing that stands in for another thing. So praying hands, it only stands for prayer. It's not the prayer itself. The prayer itself goes on in your head or your heart or your soul. But the holding your hands together is a symbol for prayer. And we have agreed through social interaction that that's what it means, and we recognize it in that way. So maybe we leave a person alone if we see them doing that. It helps other people to know, or maybe it even helps you pray to have this particular social construction. It could be anything, though, and it is other things in other cultures and in different religions. I'm Jewish, and in my religion, the symbol for prayer is bowing. You often bow forward, or you bow to the 4 points, and so it could be bowing. There are other religions where it's whirling or dancing. So these are different symbols for prayer. And that symbol could be everything, but anything. But we have socially constructed it to be this thing. And this relates to what we're studying because of this, what we talked about before, that family doesn't necessarily have to be defined as the standard North American family. Family can be defined this way, with all of these people who are interrelated. Hopefully you're remembering this family from our last video. In this slide, you can see this is, I'm guessing a guy with his daughter, and in the background you can see the rest of their family because they seem to be at a family reunion. So this is also family, where there's lots and lots of people around and involved. And this is another type of family. This is a married couple, and they have chosen not to have children. And so they are a family. They consider themselves a family. We are able to allow for a definition of family between them because they are related through the definition that we have assumed for this class, that they are legally bound and they are emotionally bound. So social constructionism is more interested in how different aspects of the social world are defined, and in particular in this class how family is defined. And in the important part to remember from this is that what we know to be true, what a family looks like, may only be true because of the cultural or historical period that we live in. And it might look very different if we were in a different culture or in a different time period. And so we call this the social construction of reality because it's a little less objective than we think it is. Okay, so your final quiz question is question 5. It's a simple one. The answer to the question is green. Okay, so your answer should be green. And that's it for this week. Okay, thank you.